Hello and welcome to the Red 78, a Munster podcast for Munster fans. Busy show coming up today as we look back on a cracking game between Northampton and Munster. The Reds just coming out on the wrong side of that result. We look ahead, good bit ahead, to facing Rochelle in the next stage of the competition. We look ahead to this weekend's clash with the Dragons. We'll name our star of the week as well. That's all to come on this week's episode of the Red 78. Who better to discuss it with than two Munster legends, Quinlan and Fiona Hayes. Guys, you're very welcome. How are you?
Good, not too bad now this week, Rory.
Quinny, how are you, sir?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Disappointed at the weekend because it was obviously great opportunity. What a match it was.
Brilliant.
Probably too loose for both sides with all the tries that were scored, and in the end, it was a gallant effort for Munster. I saw someone tweeting there after the match that Munster, this person thinks moral victories are not what anyone wants anymore. Look, of course, nobody wants moral victories at this stage. They want Munster back on track. But the last 2 weeks, I think they showed a lot of fight, determination. Are they lacking quality and making mistakes? Yes, but there's a good unity within that group. So, look, I thought they were brilliant with the effort, and obviously we'll pick bones out of the performance, but the fight and determination was really good to see. Good weekend for Liverpool, of course, as well. Sorry for anyone listening that hates Liverpool. That's a Man United fan like Ruairi.
Hey,
what a result! Liverpool they scored two late goals. Arsenal draw, and then something else happened on Sunday. I'm not going to mention it, Rory, but anyway,
it's okay, buddy. I've talked. I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm not okay.
So you're sorry you asked me then how I was.
I'll never ask you again, Quinny. I'll never ask you again. We've got a couple of comments in Fiona just about the weekend's game.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks to everyone for sending them in again. I'll read a couple out there. So we have Stephen Davies. The injury caused curse bit again, because I believe if Calvin was on the field when Jack made the break at the end, he would have been on his shoulders to go under the sticks. Small margins. Trevor said superb effort from the lads. Gutted they didn't claw out the result. Strength in depth and a rub of the green from the ref at the death. There finally broke the camel's back. We go on. The rumoured signings would be amazing. Does this mean the end of Peter O'Mahony, though? One more year, Pete. Chris Tobin, nobody can deny our guts, our determination and heart, but we're lacking the quality to get to the next level. Northampton looked like scoring every time they got inside our 22. We scored excellent tries, but again, basic errors at crucial times cost us. And finally, Pat, great effort and only just came up short, full of fight. Connor's kick and Calvin's chase were absolutely outstanding. Another day you'd get a penalty right at the end and they are all heroes. We need to get a break with the injuries. A win against the Dragons will be a good start, and he's very proud.
Yeah, lads, it was a great 80 minutes of entertainment. I mean, if you're neutral watching that, Fiona, you're going to say to yourself, look, this is absolutely fantastic. The Munster fans that we are, I think our heart rate was elevated, probably a bit annoyed by a bit of Munster sloppiness and a couple of things that I suppose could have gone better for Munster on the day.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose it's the almost, and a couple of the tries leaked as well, Rory. I suppose the last try, just at the end, we see Scannell had come on the pitch and there was a lift at the back of the line out in defence. And I think Scannell over-pushed in defence, and therefore it was a breakthrough for Northampton winger to get his Seabrook, I think, to get his hat-trick. So that was... Those little tiny errors can be so frustrating when you're watching it. But obviously that's as a Munster fan, because you're analysing every little bit of it. But certainly, we're on a lot over the last few weeks as well, talking about defence. And I just thought some of the tries scored were absolutely superb. Fair play to Prendergast. There was a variety in there. Conor Murray again had a great game. Little Chip and Calvin, I mean, to show such speed against Mitchell, he absolutely burned him. It was great to see. So I think the frustration, yes, it's exciting. You're looking at it, but it's just every week. It's those tiny little errors that are so marginal, but obviously costing Munster tries. And that's what the real frustration is, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it kind of all boils down to, Quinny. But look, certainly plenty of positives, I suppose, to take from Munster's performance.
Yeah, look, as I said, it's I've always been on about the fight and determination, and they're working their socks off, and they're working within what they have at the moment and what players are there. You know, their squad is very stretched, as we know, and we regularly speak all the time about that. Um, it's just sometimes when you're watching them, sometimes you're going, well done, that's brilliant, that's really good, that's a good decision. And then particularly just before half time and after half time, the game was won and lost. I think there's 4 tries conceded there, 1 before half time and then 3 early enough in the second half. And that's where just some of the decision making, the control, the mistakes that Munster were making, cost them. You know, I think if conceding just before half time, and I remember anytime I was playing, you know, coaches and players always, and I'm sure they'd have spoken about it as well, but that's the kind of really crucial part of any game is just before half time, particularly if you're leading. They're 15-5 up. Of course, they didn't just give Northampton the try. It came from a lot of pressure, but just a couple of penalties. I thought the referee was tough enough on Gavin Coombs there. I know he said, look, the next penalty, someone's going to the bin. There's no intent in that. It's just kind of a seatbelt tackle. It was crucial, but even though some of the penalties before that were questionable, a couple of them, but that was the crucial period. If they could got in 15-5, Northampton's heads are hanging a little bit. Munster's chest is out a little bit, if you like, in simple terms. But the opposite happened. Well, Munster were still in good fettle for sure, leading at half time away in a European game. But Northampton got a real sense of we've been sloppy in this half, and we can kick on here now in the second half. I can only imagine what they were saying at half time. Munster are going to be without Gavin Coombs for 10 minutes of the second half. Let's really up the pace, up the ante here, run out over Munster, be really physical, loads of energy, and they won't be able to cope, and they weren't able to cope. And I think some of that was down to obviously Northampton being very good, but Munster being sloppy, falling off tackles, not staying connected like they were in periods of that first half where they defended very well. And, you know, once they score again in that second half and they kick on, Munster chasing it then, and in fairness, I think there's 20 minutes of that second half that Munster were very, very disjointed, made lots of mistakes. They became very lateral in their passing. There was some poor knock-ons, poor turnovers, and there was a little bit of looking around who's going to change the momentum here, and they did. Big players stepped up. Crowley, Murray, Tygburn, outstanding performances from them. Kilgallen, I think he's going to be a great player for Munster if he gets enough of ball. He's real potential to go on and be an international. So they did step up and they turned it around. And Fiona mentioned it. Look, Niall Scannell, you can never fault his passion and commitment, and he's been very consistently good for Munster. Has an odd dip here and there like all players do, but he's been very good for Munster, and he just steps out for that last try, and that's the one that kind of just made it too big a step for Munster to go. They nearly did in the end. So the positives, the fight, the determination, the quality of the tries they got, particularly that second try of the game, that was outstanding play, really outstanding. For them, it's just about trying to get more consistent and getting to that level. And then when they're under pressure, because you're always going to be under pressure in games, those moments about keeping things simple and doing the efficient, boring things really well. So, look, they're still learning. And as I said, the last 2 weeks, there's loads of positives to take out of it. If you're picking bones through the performance, I think 25 missed tackles is too many missed tackles away from home in a European game. There's so much on the line. Some of the power told, and Northampton are much more closer to their full strength side than Munster's. But 440 post-contact meters is a high number.
Why is that significant, Quinlan? Why are post-contact meters significant?
Because it wears you down. It's about like you running at me, and I'm making a tackle. So we've now made contact with each other. You have the ball or I have the ball. One of us is tackling, one of us is carrying.
Okay.
So for me as a defender, if you're running at me, I don't want you to get over my gain line, and I want to be able to knock you backwards. So in other words, if I win that collision, um, you're not getting any post-contact meter. You're not winning a meter off me, or 2 meters or 3 meters. Now, there's always going to be line breaks, and there's always going to be leg tackle, scrambling across that someone can get 2, 3 yards after the initial contact, or 10 yards, or go through a gap or whatever. But the 440 is a lot. So in other words, Northampton are running hard. That second half, they got a lot of them. Munster's line speed was slow. It looked like it lost that really early enthusiasm and energy that it had in the first half. And look, I think in a sense, some of the tactics defensively were not to shoot up as quickly, particularly off their set plays, their lineouts and scrums, because they're quite elusive and really quick in the outside. So in other words, if Munster chose a little bit to sit back a little bit and push them towards the touchline, and they did that fairly effectively, but it's very hard then to win the collisions if that happens. So a lot of the loose forwards and their big carriers up front started to make real inroads in that second half, and that's where they gained a lot of those post-contact meters. So yeah, that Munster had 9 line breaks in the game. Northampton had 5. So they found space, they created opportunities at times, but the post-contact meters probably were significant, and it wears you down as well, Rory, if you're defending and you're losing those collisions a little bit. So again, down to a little bit of that power that we've spoken about a lot, that physical power and that presence of being able to kind of dominate up front. The lineup was down a little bit this week. There was, I think, for their first try, Dermot Barnes' throw to Peter O'Mahony's an overthrow, hits the top of his hands. Northampton put it through their hands. They get right down to the Munster 5-yard line, get a bit of dominance and pressure there, get a penalty, they score. The first try comes off that. So there's a couple of those tries that they look at, and then it's not the actual end product of it. I think the end product of the last try was a massive gap at the tail of the line out from Niall Scannell, which he'll know himself. He knew straight away when it happened. But just the actions of some of the other actions before the other tries. So it's a hard one to take from, because I think, they don't want this well done, it's a great effort type scenario. That game was there and could have been won for Munster. So the positives are, it's another bit of a harsh lesson, but you're going over to Northampton with a lot of injuries in your squad. You're playing, Northampton had a couple, but very minimal compared to Munster's, and you're playing against a side who are near full strength, and you're really disappointed that you didn't win the game. But when you concede 5 tries, then it's hard to argue that Munster deserved to win that. So Northampton's attack is very, very good, and both Seabrook and Freeman on the wings, James Ram at full back, very, very dangerous. And for Ram's try, Conor Murray, probably the one mistake, you run the risk of shooting out of the line for his try. If Conor Murray holds his line there a little bit, it's 3-on-3, and he left a little pocket.
On that, Quinny, do you not think so? I went back and I looked at it a couple of times, and yes, Murray comes up, but do you not think that if I think it's Calvin outside him, that if he comes up and that pass is pulled out, he gets man and ball, then that if I pause it and he's slightly back on his heels, like I presume when you're 5 meters out of your line, you're too small, not small, but you're 2 backs, that you are going for it. You're not sitting back in your heels. So I know it looked like Murray's shot, but I would say the connections that Calvin didn't make that decision, like it's all in or not.
Of course, and lots of teams make the decision that when you get that close, you have to go really hard up and in to try and stop man and ball. And if the other team executed and the winger scores, well, brilliant from them. They've got to go together. That's the thing. If you look at the first try, Mike Haley comes up and in the last pass. It's basics. Yeah. Now, if Mike Haley stays out and the pass is given, it's a one-on-one tackle from him. if the player runs out over him or evades him and scores in the corner, fair enough. But it's just a simple little pass. He comes up and goes inwards when there was a Munster defender on the inside. And, these are the decisions and the mistakes that you talk about connectivity. If you come up hard, if you three defenders and they have five attackers and you make a decision where we're just blasting off the line, the three of us together, just try and stop man and ball, fair enough. But Connor did that and Calvin didn't. So again, it's probably something that they need to discuss a little bit. For me, it's 3-on-3 if they sit back in the line, and if they come slower together, I think they can make the tackle there.